Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are looking at Darlington, which is where the Cup car will be running for Week 6 of Season 1 2024 in iRacing. Team Conti Sim Performance is happy to take you around for a 30-lap race run at the historic Darlington Raceway. We'll hopefully put some context behind the inputs here on this run, give you some positive direction going into your testing before the week starts, and get you up to speed. So heading down into turn 1 here, nice early lift. No brake on the initial laps here, but as the run goes on, the front grip fades away. You'll definitely introduce about 5 to 10% of brake as you make your initial turn off the wall into 1. Braking at the safer barrier down the backstretch into 3 and downshifting to 4th gear early on that entry phase to utilize that engine braking to help you slow down. Back up to 5th shortly before the start finish line. Early lift into 1 again. Start picking up partial throttle right past where you just about clip that apron on the entry to turn 1. Drive it up to the wall in the center, and then just past center you'll start to turn back down for your exit. Turn 3 entering right on the white hash mark, sliding up about a half a lane in the center, and then turning back down the track and entering or exiting on the bottom off 4. Tire conservation is not as huge as it's been here in seasons past. It's probably got some to do with the track temp this week being a little bit lower given the time of year that the week will be set in mid-January, but still definitely don't want to push 100% early on. If you take a look at the TCSP notes for this week, it gives some additional detail about what you should be running early on compared to what the car is capable of. This particular run right here, I'm starting in the high 7s to low to mid 8s, and I'll carry that through the first 10 or so, and then we'll just slowly start to fall off from 10 through 30, ending at about a second fall off overall from where we start to where we finish. Darlington is very easy to overdrive, and it's very easy to lose sight of what you're trying to accomplish when you're in a race with a bunch of cars around you. Very line sensitive, very track position dependent, and very hard to pass. So it might sound cliche, but definitely want to race the track and not the cars around you this week. Don't over-exert your car early on. Take care of it. Try to maintain track position as best as possible. And if you do everything right, the first 10 to 15 laps, you'll have quite a bit more pace later on versus if you overdrive and heat those tires up. They will not come back. Some trouble spots at Darlington are this turn off the wall and the exit of 2, which we just went through. We'll take a look at that again on this next lap. And then turn 3 and 4, a lot of clients I've worked with in the past have struggled with front turn in the center of 3 and 4. Typically that comes down to issues on entry. Not enough brake pressure, driving into the corner too deep, well past that safer barrier start on the backstretch, and not shaving off enough speed. Turn 3 is the sharper end of Darlington, so you really have to get the car slowed down. Minimum corner speeds on this end of the track are somewhere between 132 to 137, 140 right there on new tires, but that will continue to slow down as you get deeper into the run. And then in turn 1 and 2, similar issues. See lots of folks overdriving entry and then trying to carry too much throttle up the track, so they'll get super tight on that approach to the wall. They'll still be tight when they try to turn it back off the wall, and that'll really screw up their exit. That outside wall off of turn 2 comes up super fast. So if you find yourself getting tight off of there or getting tight and then snapping loose because you have a bunch of wheel in it, probably boils down to an issue on entry. Again, early lift. No brake at this point in the run. Lots of part throttle. Still part throttle as we cut down the track. Really trying not to slip the right front or the right rear. Just keep the car nice and straight, nice and tidy. Entering on the bottom in 3, sliding up a half a lane to just about hit the right sides on the first seam, and then cutting back down to exit low. Start picking up throttle right at that apron to track transition where you almost clip the apron. Start turning back off the wall just past the end of those billboards. Braking at the safer barrier, turning down to the bottom, carrying some good trail brake into just past the 1/4 mark of 3 and 4. A little bit of free roll towards center, and then incrementally increasing that throttle as you drive off. As the run goes on, you will definitely be front grip limited on the approach up to the wall in turn 1 and 2. So bear that in mind as you're firing off. Make sure you're not using too much wheel lock when you're already at the grip limit of the front axle. Really just try to stay in tune with what your wheel is telling you through its force feedback. Some pedals are equipped with rumblers, which are really good in helping to understand when you're chattering tires or going over the slip limit of that tire. So really important to take all of the feedback you can get here and apply it to the inputs you're using on track. Initial burst of throttle in the center of 3 and 4 is at about 50%, and slowly work up to 100% thereafter. 13 laps into a run, still running sub 29s, so not a whole lot of fall off yet. That'll continue to increase as we go, but again, not major this week as the fall off, as long as you don't overdo it early. The first 5 to 10 laps directly influence the rest of the run. If you push super hard for 5 or 10, then try to back it back down and get the tires under you, it's not really going to work because you've already conditioned the tires to be, in layman's terms, mad. You've gotten the tires mad and they will not come back. Lots of part throttle, cutting back down late enough in that corner so that I don't pinch off my exit and run out of racetrack. Also, not getting right up to that wall in 1 and 2 as well. I'm sure it's probably hard to tell from inside the car here. But if we were to look outside the car, I'm probably about 1/4 to 1/2 a car width off the wall at my highest point in 1 and 2. If you get too high up, you really start to interact with a lot of the bad bumps toward the fence, toward the highest point of 1 and 2. You'll start to bottom out the diffuser and you won't be able to make that turn back down the track. So while it's important to get up the track in 1 and 2 and widen out your approach to cut back down off of 2, if you get too high and you get too close to that wall in the roughest part of the bumps, you'll mess up your center exit as well. You'll start to notice here into 1 that brake is lighting up about 5 to 10% on entry, just enough to shave a little bit of additional speed and to encourage that front to point just a little bit better. Playing with the throttle off of 4, making sure that I can commit without slipping the right rear too much. We'll go around a couple laps here. I'll be quiet, let you all observe what's going on, and I will come back in at the beginning of lap 20. Heading down the backstretch here, working lap 20, heading into turn 3. about 30% initial brake pressure as we get deeper into the run here. Still some really good grip off of 4. Just clipped that apron a bit there and swung it loose. Nothing terrible though. A sub 29.3 in lap 20, so good long run pace. This was definitely my best 30 lap run by far in the lead up to our public release of the set, so definitely ended on a high note here. Sliding up a little bit farther as we get into the run here. Not necessarily a requirement, but as you do start to lose some grip overall, that little bit of additional space, that little bit of additional track that you can utilize in the middle of 3 and 4 will help you drive back down off the corner a bit straighter. It's a little bit easier on the tires, but ultimately wrapping the bottom in 3 and 4 is the best way to preserve tire here at this point in time, but you might start to sacrifice a little bit of performance and pace as you get later into the run. And this is without knowing what dynamic tracks will do to this track as races go on with lots of cars running and putting down rubber and heat. I feel like more than likely 1 and 2 will probably remain pretty much the same. There's only, truthfully, one good way to get around here, but 3 and 4 is a little bit more open-ended. I could definitely see the bottom getting better or worse depending on where the majority of the cars are running, and more of 3 and 4 becoming usable. So make sure you don't stay in one lane if you're not making the pace you wish to make at that point. Search around, change up your technique, look at what the guys around you are doing, and make sure that you're staying nimble and flexible. You know, that's what dynamic tracks have brought back to the sim, and it's definitely making people think a little bit more, which is great. Coming to the start of lap 25 here, and on this run I really started to push the car a little bit more later in the run just to see what it had left in it. That's not something that I would do in a race. As you get through a run and your tires get older and you have less grip, it's not really a best practice to start to push the car harder. But in this case, for testing purposes, what I like to do is push the car at some benchmark laps. That's your lap 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and see what the car's got left in it. If I go to push at one of those benchmark laps and I cannot make any more lap time than I made the lap before when I was just running a pace, I know that either A, I haven't protected the tires properly, or B, this setup or this variant of setup is possibly not as good. Maybe a change I made wasn't good. In this particular case, with this setup, which is our benchmark release candidate, every time I pushed, I was able to make some more lap time. Every time I pushed, I didn't feel like I was out of control. This run was very in control from start to finish. Like I'd mentioned before, you start to lose a little bit of front grip on your approach up the hill in 1 and 2. So from here to about here, you start to lose a little bit of front turn. But as you can tell, it's certainly not plowing. It's a small difference, but how you react and how you handle to that degradation of grip is going to make a huge difference in how the car trends over the long run. So going back to what I said before, utilizing the feedback you're getting from the car to make decisions on what to do with your throttle, maybe use a little bit more brake, shape the corner a little bit differently and widen out your entry, just all things that you can do to affect the handling. As we go through these last 3 laps here, and using a little bit more throttle and exit than I was earlier in the run, really just testing the waters to see how much I have left. Sliding up to about that first seam in 3 and 4, and then cutting back down on exit. A little bit slower to full throttle, but that's to be expected. Just hovering under about a full second worth of fall off in 30 laps. Should give you a good reference for what we're working with this week. Lots of wheel movement off of 2, trying to settle that rear end down. So some really good turn off of 2, which is good at this point in the run. Again, considering that front turn entry to center was a bit problematic in the lead up to this. And starting lap 30, which will be our final lap of the run. This is everything this car has got. More throttle and entry, good shape on entry, good turn back down the hill. Had to wait a little bit on full throttle just because I was a bit too shallow in the center. Kind of started my turn down a little bit too soon. deep into 3 past the safer barriers, so really had to slow it down. But good center cut and good straight drive off, and we'll end the run at a 29.761. So again, Darlington is one of the toughest tracks on the schedule. It is not for the faint of heart. It is challenging in every facet of the sense. But we hope that with these instructional guides, with the notes we provide, and obviously with the setups we're putting out for you all, that you find great success this week. Continue to keep in touch with Team Conti Sim Performance on our Discord and reach out to us if you need any help with anything. We are here to help. Otherwise, thank you all for watching the Team Conti Sim Performance NextGen lap guide for Darlington Raceway, and we look forward to seeing you on track.